Very good evening, Rashmi, or should I call you Preeti? Never have I ever had the opportunity of interviewing anybody who I just got mesmerized by in 1.5 hour of watching a movie. So let's talk about the movie designed by Preeti. Uh, what inspired you to make this story?
I've always written about social issues. I have
Hmm.
made another short film which is about another social issue, and
Unborn.
so
You're talking about Unborn.
unborn, yes,
Mhm.
and so I had noticed that these two women that were in my sort of in my group when I was raising my kids in the Bay Area. And they were in these horribly abusive marriages. The women were educated. One of them has a master's degree, independent. They could have easily stood on their feet, but they stayed in these marriages. And it was mind-boggling to me. And then a close relative, I noticed similar thing was happening. And then during the pandemic, when I had no work as an actor, I decided to write this feature film. The Another close relative I found out was going through something not as bad, but again, abuse, partner abuse. So I thought this is terrible, and somebody needs to talk about it. And when I would mention this to people who Indians who have lived in the United States for years, 30 years, 40 years, they would say, domestic violence in Indian community? No, no way, no way. So then I said I made it my project to educate people through this film, and so I started writing this. It took me 3 years to write it,
Wow.
but yes.
Your story is also kind of similar. You're an Indian immigrant. You were 21 when you came here from Lucknow. How has that experience been for you as an immigrant? What from one immigrant to another, there are a lot of things that we're not used to doing in India. Like, I'm learning that I have to doing dishes is my responsibility of the house. And for 40 years of my life, I never figured that out. And it was always somebody else's job to do it. Um, how was your experience as an immigrant?
So I feel a little blessed. Um, I came when I was very young, so it was easy to soak up and learn things. I wasn't set in my ways. I knew how to speak English well, so that was not an issue. I ate meat, so that was not difficult. And
Unlike
and
the movie, unlike the
I
movie, I
like the
would
movie
say.
exactly. And my husband, fortunately, or how you want to look at it, was raised in the United States. He's also Indian, born in India, but he came to the US when he was 4 years old. He knew how to do dishes.
Oh,
He had
nice.
learned, he had grown up here. So he made the transition very easy for me.
Mhm.
He said, you need to, whatever you need to learn. I said, I want to learn how to swim. I want to learn how to drive, the basics. He encouraged me to do all those things and did the dishes. So
That's always husband's job, I guess.
that transition was very easy for me, uh, as compared to other women that I have met who have come to the United States, who for them English has been an issue, etc. So I would say that was lucky for me, or a blessing. Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
next for Preeti after she does the pop-up? What's next for her?
Well,
If you
so
were to make a sequel.
she has found love,
Hmm.
and in the one of the versions of the script, this was like the 70th version that got made iteration. One of the versions I had written that Jackson arrives at the fashion show. Not not
Okay.
not
Yeah,
Revati.
yeah.
Yeah, but Jackson, because for Revati to arrive at the fashion show would show that she has not yet had a chance
Breakthrough.
to change her mind, or to
Right.
to change. You can't really change, but she has realized that that dancer in her is still alive. that
Right.
we have suggested, right? So in my one of the iterations, I show that Jackson arrives at the pop-up dressed in Indian clothes.
Mhm.
That's how I had seen it when I was writing the story. But then when Gayatri, the director, came on board and we were doing the script reading, and we did the script reading with Frank, the guy who plays Jackson, and we thought that we want to give Preeti the agency to go to him. The guy doesn't come to her. Preeti goes to the guy when she is ready. And so we changed that. Even even though I didn't, then there was no occasion to put Jackson in a fancy Indian outfit, but that's and I like that idea. I like that idea of giving Preeti the agency to say, I'm ready on my terms. I will go to this guy because she is the
Right.
one who left him, and she's the one who takes that step. So there were many changes like that. There's also a scene that we filmed, and it's a very powerful scene, very beautifully done. The lighting is beautiful. It's Revati when she finds her son in bed with the girlfriend.
Mhm.
There's a big fight between mother and son. So we
Okay.
filmed that. I wrote that scene, and it was very hard to cut that baby, let that baby go. But we showed the film to many filmmakers at AFI. I showed it
Hmm.
to filmmakers, to friends, actors, and they all said, "That's the B story. That's the C story. We don't want to see. We don't want to see that. We don't want to see
Right.
that fight. We don't want to
Mhm.
see that. We just want to see Preeti's journey. And if you have hour and a half to tell the story, then so we're going to have, but that scene is so beautiful. We're going to have that in the bonus material. So
Okay.
it's going to be there.
What were what were some of the scenes that were difficult to shoot versus those that were like very easy for you to shoot? Like, we'll talk about both. We'll talk about the ones that you had most difficulty filming versus the ones that came naturally to you. Like, because you've been here uh, for
You talking about as an actor, or are you
as an
talking
actor.
as a producer?
Um, yeah, as an actor.
As an actor. So as an actor, um, the scene, the anniversary party scene in the beginning of the movie,
Mhm.
that was hard because it was like the coldest night. It was 40 degrees. My breath was fogging. I was wearing this strapless dress. So in between takes, I would wear a down parka. But we had to do several takes to make sure that the fogging of the breath was not showing. So that was like, oh my God, this is why is this scene taking so long? It's 3 a.m. Let's go, let's go. So that and there was not really much for me to emotionally prepare or anything. So I was just annoyed the whole time as a producer and as an actor that let's move on, and this is why is this happening? As a producer, so I'll stay with the actor. The scene where I'm sitting on the couch and right after the slap in Harry's house and everybody's talking to me, that was talking at me, about me, to me, and I wrote it that way. I wrote it that way that how are in especially in the Indian community, everybody has advice, everybody wants to talk, and so I kept Preeti very quiet in that entire scene. Everybody else is talking, and that scene, I had to stay emotionally present there, and it took a while to film it. So that was a challenging scene as an actor. Even the one where I've locked Ajay out and he comes home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other scenes, were not that difficult. What was hard for me was that because I'd written the script, I knew everybody's lines. And so
Right.
when the other actor forgot, I had to kind of hold myself from not telling them their lines. I really had to work hard when I'm on a regular set where I have not written anything. I'm just there as an actor. It's fine. Of course, you don't tell another actor what to do.
Right.
But on this set, there were many times where I was tempted to say, no, but it's not written that way. And I wouldn't, because again, a good actor doesn't tell the other actor what to do. So
Right.
I would then go whisper in the director's ear and say, "No, no, no, this is not what I wrote. This is not what I wrote." So, so yeah, so I had to communicate through the director, and that was kind of hard to
Yeah,
to.
there was a song in the movie as well that your daughter in the movie sings. Was
Yes.
that her original composition, or does she
No,
sing?
we commissioned someone to write that song
Hmm.
based on the script, based
Oh,
on the mental state of Malika. And so he wrote it, and then Gayatri and I tweaked it until we had the right words. And then Shivani, my daughter, she has a degree in opera singing, so she's a
okay.
singer. Yeah, and she went and recorded it in LA. Yeah.
Also, that is your daughter's voice. I mean, your
Yes.
off-screen daughter's voice.
Yeah, my off-screen daughter's voice. Yes, yes, yeah.
That's
That
awesome.
song is on Spotify. Yeah.
And that was very beautifully sung. It was it was really heart touching to listen to that song.
Yeah.
Normally in 1.5 hours of English movies, you don't get melody and you don't get much of singing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it was a very beautiful voice. Please pass it on as a compliment to her.
Thank you. Thank you. She is a good singer. Yes.
Yes. Um, I did read a lot about you before we got into this interview. I know you're from Lucknow. What is that? Um, what are the few things that you miss about Lucknow or India?
Oh my gosh. When I was 9 years old, my mother introduced me to All India Radio plays. And so I started doing All India Radio plays as a child actor and earned on all through high school. And I earned all my pocket money from those plays. And I learned how to speak good Hindi. I mean, I knew Hindi,
Hmm.
but there's good Hindi, and there's very subtle changes. Like you don't say soch rahe hain, you say soch rahe hain. That
Totally.
little subtle, yeah. And of
Yeah.
course, a lot of people from Delhi make the mistake of saying fal, fool. There is no fa in Hindi. It's
Yeah.
phal,
Oh,
fool, right?
right.
Pa, ha, ba, bha. So
Oh, is
it's
Urdu.
all those subtleties that I learned. So I miss, and then of course there's Urdu. So I missed Urdu and Hindi from Lucknow. Lucknow is still such a beautiful place. Uh, every time I go back, it's just, I've visited many places in India, but Lucknow has its food, has its famous for its food and its culture, and people are still kind and polite. Even the rickshawala still says "aap chaliye,"
Right.
instead of the "tu" that you hear in Delhi. So, so yeah, I think Lucknow is one of the best places in India. I missed the theater, and then I started doing theater after high school, and I did live theater in Lucknow. And so when I came to the U.S., I missed that. And for many years, I couldn't do theater. We lived in places like Buffalo, New York, or Birmingham, Alabama. There was no theater for brown people. So when I arrived in the Bay Area and I went to this Hindi play, there's a theater company called Natak in the Bay Area, and I signed up
Mhm.
with them and I started doing theater. I did a lot of theater with Natak and a few other theater companies. And I remember the first time I went and saw a Hindi play. Tears were streaming down my face because it was such a pleasure to hear Hindi in America, sitting in Palo Alto and listening and so I signed up and did a bunch of plays and transitioned to film eventually.
Yeah, where you're coming to in Chicago, we do a lot of Indian cinema. There, the place is Matrix Club, the Matrix Club. We're located in Naperville, and the place has an amazing theater where
Hmm.
we'll be showcasing the movie live screening the movie on the 2nd of November at 11 a.m.
Mhm.
That's a Sunday, so we highly encourage all our viewers to be there. Buy the ticket at the URL given here in this video. And yeah, would they get a chance to meet you when they get?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, right.
I'll be there. I'm coming to Chicago, and we'll have a Q&A
Hmm.
uh, at the end of the movie for people to ask any questions about filmmaking, about the specific story, etc. Yeah, I'm happy to answer questions.
Nice. I also had a chance to browse through your Instagram, and I saw how an actor's journey is through an audition from San Francisco to LA, and how you had to go 350 miles.
Yeah.
Which year was that?
I started going to LA in 2000 since 2008, 9.
Hmm.
And found an agent who told me, I'll only take you on condition that you change your phone number to to LA phone number. And if I call you for an audition, you better be there. So I said, okay, do not call me for an audition. I can be there the next day, but not until 12 o'clock because it's a 6 hour drive from the Bay Area, and 6
Right.
a.m. is a decent time to start. So that's how I would do my auditions. You drive there 6 hours, do a 3 minute audition, and drive right back. I did that many times until I got an apartment there and started living 3, 4 days a week. And yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
How was your first role in Avengers? When you got the role, how did it feel? How it- how long was that role? And tell us a little bit more about it.
The audition was like 3, 4 months before I actually filmed it. So the audition was a little odd. I had done many auditions before, but what was odd was I had to go through 5 firewalls to get to my script. And I kept thinking, this must be a big deal. I didn't know very much about the Avengers. And so I got the script, and it was in English. I had to translate it, all of that. And went and did my audition and had my nap and then drove right back. And 3 months later, I get the my agent calls and says, "You better be sitting down because I have great news. You booked your part in the Avengers." I said, "Oh, that's great. Okay." And then then I told my children, and they were so excited. They said, "Mom, this is a big deal. Avengers is the Avengers." And then I realized why I had those 5 firewalls to get to the.
Mhm.
It was a great experience. They flew me out to Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is where all the
Nice.
Avengers films are filmed. And I had Mark Ruffalo made an appointment with me that morning for breakfast to help me write his Hindi lines phonetically. He wanted to speak Hindi correctly. So we kind of chatted about it and I wrote them down for him. Yeah, he actually had that paper in his hand during the filming. He really wanted to be correct. The scene was a little longer when it was filmed, but then they trimmed it down, which is fine. It did it, as a filmmaker, I know how long a scene should be in order to convey its message. So
Yeah.
it moves the story along. Yeah.
So from acting in a Hollywood movie, to being a filmmaker yourself, what are some of the things that you wish that we did more in Indian cinema that doesn't happen at all? I mean, currently in Indian cinema, those things are not done at all versus, seeing it the Western side of it. How do you feel about that?
Well, I understand, and this is not from firsthand experience, but I understand that the auditioning process and getting a part process is all very different in Bollywood
Mhm.
than it is in Hollywood. Hollywood, it's very streamlined. You get your audition, you go audition, you book it or you don't book it. But I guess that's not how it happens in Hollywood. And also, I think that a lot of Bollywood films are way too long.
Yeah,
If they can tell the same story in an hour and a half, with our attention span going down and down, hour and a half seems to be like the sweet spot, which a lot of independent films in the US are.
yeah,
Non-independent, even commercial films, hour and a half is that sweet spot. And I find that to be the most annoying part about Bollywood. Other than that, they have come a long way. They do great work, great acting there is. But I guess if you want to squeeze 12 songs into a film, it has to be longer than an hour and a half. And I don't see the relevance of that, but people like it. I mean, Indians like that. So if it sells, if it ain't broke, why fix it?
yeah, I guess so. Well, we can't live without songs in our movie.
Yeah.
Um, you did notice that some of the women in South Asian community are tolerating domestic abuse where they could have just set themselves free years ago. And you also said that domestic abuse starts way before it's physical. What are some of the other incidents or the unspoken sides of it that you noticed when you decided to write this story?
A lot of it is controlling finances, controlling, you know, during the pandemic, domestic violence abuse went up eightfold. And a lot of it had to do in the Indian community, a lot of it had to do with the visa control, the husband or the wife, primarily the husband, controlling the woman by saying, "I will not let you get your green card if you don't do this or if you don't do that." And so control. It starts with that. The one of the close relatives that I know who was affected by this, her husband, the first thing he said it was, "I don't want you to play soccer because I don't like your soccer friends." So she stopped playing soccer. And so by isolating the women, isolating a person from their circle, then the second step usually happens is don't visit your sisters, don't visit your mother, don't call. My producer is a domestic violence survivor, one of my producers,
Mhm.
and she says that the first thing her husband said was, "Don't call your parents." And at that time it was a landline, and he would listen to her on the other line. So he isolated her from her family so that he can have more control. So it starts that way, and then of course it for her it escalated, and he got physically abusive, and until her parents finally, until she started working somewhere, and that woman noticed the marks on her body, on her
Mhm.
face, and decided that this, and told her that this is not right, because she had come here at the age of 20 in a arranged marriage. She said,
Mhm.
"I didn't know any better. I thought this is how it should be." She said, "I never knew that there was something called 911 for the longest time." And he had taken away her passport, and it just can't get out, can't get go anywhere. You don't know what to do. So so yeah. And in her case, of course, he ended up physically abusing her, but it started with that, with isolation and control and
Mhm.
gaslighting and all of that. That I've noticed for a lot of women, because now a lot of women come talk to me when they see the film after the screenings. And what's interesting is that a lot of non-Indian people come up and talk to me and say
Right.
that they've been affected by it directly or indirectly.
Mhm. Nice. Yeah, I did. There was a point in the movie where I thought that when she talks to her daughter, when Preeti talks to her daughter and says, we have to make a room for forgiveness, that they're I mean, are they going to forgive the father, or is that not happening? But then, she does mention that, oh, we need to make some room for forgiveness. So what was that referring to?
Yeah, because if you want to let go and move on with your life, you have to forgive.
Okay.
You don't really forget. Abuse or trauma is hard to forget. But if you can make peace with the abuser now that he's out of your life, and you forgive him for who he is, it's easier to move on. It's easier
Mhm.
to move on with your life and find your peace.
Yeah.
And we did so originally I had written this film as 6 episodes. It was going to be a TV episodic. And then
Okay.
I was advised, and that's why it took me so long to write it. Then I was advised that it's hard to sell episodics, write a feature
Mhm.
film. But in that episodic, I had explored every character, and they all had a backstory. So I'd explored Sonia's life, Revati's life, Ajay's life, Preeti's, of course. So each episode was sort of dedicated to one of the primary characters. And in that, I had explored Ajay a lot. We have his backstory. And even Jay, who plays Ajay,
Mhm.
is a very seasoned actor. He's trained, he has a master's in acting. And so he also, every actor usually creates a backstory in order so he and I together, we brainstormed, and I told him the backstory I had created for him, and he had his own ideas. And so he's not always a bad person, and what made him a bad person, what
Right.
made him how he was raised, what he saw with his father, that his father was abusive, his father was alcoholic, and all of that. That was his backstory. And so originally he was also very bad in my script.
Prior to doing Designed by Preeti, you've done a film that's on Amazon, that's called Unborn. That was also about social justice and about women empowerment.
Mhm.
Um, Tell us more about Unborn.
So Unborn came to me when, for a short time, my husband and I were living in Bakersfield, California,
Hmm.
and that's part of Central Valley. And we found out that selective abortion of female fetuses was fairly common in Central Valley in the Indian community. And my OBGYN was very frustrated. She said, if I have a young Indian woman come to me for an ultrasound, and especially if she has two daughters, I don't want to do it because if it's a girl, it's gone. And my jaw dropped literally. I was like, this is America. What are you talking about? She said, this is still happening. So I wanted to make a documentary about that. But of course, none of those women would talk to me. So then I interviewed five OBGYNs in Bakersfield. One of them ended up playing my husband in the movie, and he let us borrow his clinic to film some scenes. And they all had the same story. And they said that we even offer IVF, but the husband says, no, 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 she'll have an abortion. So so I wrote this story from the woman's point of view because I feel that no woman wants to get rid of a baby, regardless of the sex. And so she's being coerced by her in-laws and her husband. And I play the good mother-in-law who at the end tells this daughter-in-law that it's your body and it's your choice. And it's a dramatic scene that ends up in a Durga temple because I
Hmm.
wanted that to line up. We pray to Goddess Durga, and yet, So anyway, so it's a little Bollywood, but I wanted to for that message to land. And the young girl who played my daughter-in-law, is a very powerful actress. She
Hmm.
did a fantastic job. And there's a scene in there which I wrote, but every time I watch it, it brings me to tears because she played it so well. She said the lines so well. She won a couple of awards. The movie was released on Amazon during the pandemic, and I submitted to festivals during the pandemic, so we couldn't really go to festivals in person, but we won awards that were mailed to us. So yeah, and if that movie changes any one woman's mind, I feel like my message has succeeded. Yeah.
Nice. That you mentioned about Goddess Durga, and couldn't help to notice that the name of your production company is
Oh,
also
thank
inspired by Goddess Durga. Um, Tell us more about your production company. Is it only going to be about women, or do men stand a
Oh
chance?
no, no, it doesn't have to be about. Um, but my three daughters are named after Durga as well. And the production company, no, I plan to do more work uh, under that umbrella. Just I feel like I am at a point in my life where I need to leave a legacy for the children, for the next generation,
Hmm.
and and therefore I want to address social issues.
Right.
But my next movie is going to be a road trip, and
Oh,
it's going
nice.
to be a thriller, a comedy. But I will definitely throw in a bunch of social issues in there. In Design by Preeti, I've covered several, including the acceptance of this woman, of her lesbian daughter, of her sexuality. And I did
Right.
not make any fuss about it. There was no coming out and argument between mother and daughter. She has accepted it. Let's move on. And it's a happy relationship between them. So I put that in there, interracial romance, a bunch of issues
Right.
that are in there. Yeah.
So it leaves with a lot of nice messages about how women should not just take anything to the to the given and just leave it just because it's always been the way it has been. So I feel that you've addressed a lot of social issues in the movie very nicely.
Yeah, what's the future of the film? I'm just looking for just good distribution,
Uh-huh.
and do some independent screenings in theaters on my own. Domestic violence organizations have approached me, and we've done two screenings with them, followed by Q&A. So, so yeah, it's so far it has had a good journey, a good festival journey, and I'm hoping that it continues that way.
That's awesome. I mean, I thank you for being here on this podcast today. Your movie is awesome. I've seen it. It reflects not just the pain, but the possibility of for someone to start again, and gives people a lot of hope and positivity towards the end of the movie. That's all great messaging going on to the Indian community. And I, as your host, Ashutosh Sharma, the host of Indians in Chicago and India for USA. Wish you all the best with the movie.
Thank you.
Look forward to many more similar and not so similar projects in future by
Yeah.
your production. And let's stay in touch. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.